Hi, this is Trevor Lorkings, the Digital Alchemist, known for being creative in a digital world. You are listening to Social Media Talks podcasts with Alan Hennessy from compassmedia.ie.
Welcome to Social Media Talks podcasts, brought to you by compassmedia.ie.
Hello and thank you for joining me. This is the Social Media Talks podcast, brought to you by compassmedia.ie, episode number 89. I'm your host, Alan Hennessy, and this is the podcast to help business owners who want to learn more about social media marketing. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. You can also join our Facebook group by logging on to facebook.com/groups/social media talks. And we're looking forward to today's show. Today I'm going to be joined by an old friend of the podcast here. Yes, he's had two previous experiences, and I think he's the first one to return for a third visit. Yes, indeed. Today we're going to be talking to Trevor Lorkings, the Digital Alchemist. And Trevor is a professional web and graphic designer. He is also a brand reputation specialist with over 30 years of experience in print design and digital marketing. And Trevor's mantra is, be creative in a digital world. And today we're going to be talking to Trevor all about branding and reputation and the difference between the two of them. So without further ado, I think we will transition straight over to the interview with Trevor. Hi Trevor, how are you? Thanks for joining us today on the Social Media Talks podcast. Yes, indeed, this is a first for the Social Media Talks podcast, and people might say, why? Because this is your third outing. Yes, indeed. 3 times on this podcast. Well, this is the third time. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Alan. It's really good to be here for the third time.
Yes, indeed.
Can't believe it. It seems such a long time ago since I was here for the second time.
Well, it's over 2 years, in fairness. So, you know what I mean? Time does fly when you're having fun. Yes, indeed. I remember the very first podcast we did, and you were the first guest. I was going to say victim.
I wasn't a guest. I was a guinea pig, I think.
Yeah, I think you were the one. You were the one that started it all off. Yes, indeed. And no better man, of course. And if you want to go back, guys, and listen to any of Trevor's previous episodes, episode number 1, the very first one, and you'll hear it. We were quite raw that day, but however, we got there, and it was the starting point. And we did talk about being creative in a digital world in episode 1, and then you came back in episode number 16 a couple of months later, and we talked about being brave and digital imagery. But today we are going to be talking all about branding and reputation, and I think this is going to be a very, very I suppose insightful conversation, because you have a certain view on this, and I'm inclined to agree with you. We have talked off air before we came on, and we were just discussing what we were going to be chatting about on today's podcast. But before we start, and I suppose just to give people a little brief background on you, if you can tell us a little bit about your background first, and then we shall get stuck into our chosen topic.
Right, okay. My brief background is, I spent 20 years in purchasing after leaving school, buying stuff, spending money. I got bored of that, and went to the time of after having a proper job. Got it.
There is a private joke in that, guys.
Anyway, so what was it? Yeah, about 20 years ago, went self-employed and set up a design agency, because this thing called the internet started up and people wanted websites. Well, they thought they did. The internet was here to stay. So I've been doing web design and graphic design and all those digital creative things for probably the last 20 years. And I now work as the Digital Alchemist is the brand I work under, creating magic with the digital graphics and web designs and things. Brilliant stuff.
And of course, today we are going to be talking all about branding and reputation. And I suppose a starting point on this, I suppose we should really get it out is like, what is branding and what is reputation? I think we all perceive it as different things, and I'd like your opinion on it.
Well, I think this is one of the starting points. Is some people think it's one and the same and don't quite know the difference. I'm not sure there's a difference. It's kind of like all lumps into one big melting pot of this sort of, it's my logo. That will do, won't it? But I think, branding is clearly far more than just your logo. And I sum up branding as painting pictures in other people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that idea. I like that terminology.
And before you get anywhere near reputation, we have to start with branding, because it all starts with branding. If I take you back to when you started Compass Media.
A very long time ago. No.
Day one, Compass Media. Even prior to day one, when you thought about it, you probably got there think, right, okay, I've got my laptop. What should I have? I'll have one of them Apple Mac things, because that look good in a coffee shop. nice iPhone. You get a few business cards. You probably had a website or a Twitter account. You got things together and you thought, well, I've got a logo, I've got my name, I've got a strap line. You're starting to build your brand. So when you go out and start putting your marketing messages out there to get known, to start your business, your brand is starting to get out there. You meet somebody in a coffee shop to have a chat about some social media training or whatever you were doing back as day one. Your appearance, your choice of coffee shop. Did you go to a smart restaurant, wine bar, coffee shop, pub? Where did you choose to meet? How were you dressed? How did you greet them? How did you talk? So many things start creating that picture that person is picking up on. And I know you've studied NLP and we don't want to go in the depths of the NLP, but the neurons in the brain are firing against what people are picking up from what they see, what they hear. Their whole senses are going on. And that's all starting to create that illusion of the brand you've created. Yeah. It's not just the logo on your website.
I think that is, and I think that is what branding is. And I think that's probably, as you say, people don't think about that. They think, okay, branding is, your logo or, your website or whatever. And it is, yes, that is part of it. But I think there's, as you say, there's a lot more of, it's more non-descriptive than anything. It's how you carry yourself. It's also how you portray yourself. It's also how you look, how you think, and as you say, the Apple Mac. It's like, there's all that old story of where you see a person who's in a coffee shop and someone he has a Dell computer, he has an IBM computer, on a laptop or an IBM laptop, and then you have the guy who has the Apple Mac. Where are your eyes drawn to? Your eyes are drawn to the Apple because it's a brand, because it's silver, and because it looks good. And you say, well, if I'm going to talk to either of these guys, it'll be a man with the Mac because he has the brand and he looks well branded.
It depends on what you're choosing, and this is where we can get to the reputation bit in a minute. But it is creating that picture.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. I would totally agree with you on that.
It's all creating that picture. I mean, if you think back to even just to say the choice of shall we meet in a coffee shop? Do you remember when I arranged that afternoon tea in Dublin?
Definitely.
And invited a good dozen or so contacts that I'd only met on Twitter up until then, and I arranged a fabulous afternoon tea.
Yes.
That was the brand creation. I didn't want to go down a pub and drink Guinness. I didn't want to go down a coffee shop and drink coffee. I chose that afternoon tea to create that occasion.
And
it was all part of the brand. And it all and there was other little things which I don't need to go into the minute detail of what we did that afternoon. But there were all things to create the depth of brand and all those touch points and all those experiences that people got from that afternoon tea. And it wasn't just a cup of tea with some friends. It was far more than that. And that was all creating part of, probably then it was the Busy Fizzy brand people knew me as I still am on Twitter, because it was a Twitter-based connections. And it all created that. And I think you were there. I think you could say for years afterwards, it was still talked about. It
was. And like that, it was probably like, obviously we'd talking online and we'd been on Twitter and so on and so forth. But it was actually when we met you in person and we met your wonderful wife as well, Rosemary, that day, when you said, okay, we're having an afternoon tea in I think it was the Ariel House at the time, and I think it still is the Ariel House, but at the same token, I remember talking to my wife and saying, oh yeah, I'm going to an afternoon tea party, and she went, oh, you're going to an afternoon tea party? It set the tone immediately. We knew then that this wasn't just another guy, and don't take this the wrong way, but it wasn't just another guy from the UK coming over and, who's been on Twitter and we'll all meet up. And it was more to it than that. And it set a tone immediately, like even prior to the afternoon tea.
So I think the pre-experience was there, wasn't it?
The whole pre-experience of
the invitation.
Building up. Exactly.
The whole way it was invited. Do you remember how it was invited? The invitation you received?
Beautiful invitation, yeah.
It was a piece of cardboard in the post.
But it was
more than just a piece of cardboard in the post.
Yeah.
It was a significant part of the brand building experience. I could have just sent you a message on Facebook saying, do you want to come for afternoon tea?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have carried the same gravitas because I'm in the printing business and it's all part of what I do. It all reinforced those touch points. So the pre-experience before you got to even have a cup of tea was already starting to build. And the atmosphere was starting to build, the anticipation was starting to build, and that's all part of building that brand to paint those pictures.
Yeah, I get that totally now.
And I think that, and this is where we then start coming on to reputation. And I'm trying to think that famous quote that Jeff, the guy from Amazon, you know that guy from Amazon?
What your man Jeff Bezos said is...
That's the guy.
He says, a brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room. But speaking here, I think that's a reputation is what others talk about when you're not in the room.
Yeah, I think it's the cusp. I think what he's getting is the cusp that, take the afternoon tea, I created the brand. I was in control of what I created. The same as when you started Compass Media, you were in control of your business cards, what laptop you had, what suit you wore, whatever. You created that. Your customers didn't have control of that. Your customers didn't design your business card. You did. Because at that point, you had no customers. So they couldn't create your business card. And the same with the afternoon tea. I created that setting. I created that experience. How that experience was perceived by the people attending was out of my control to some degree. No matter how much effort I put into making it think it's great, how I wanted to create it was great, ultimately, those people would have been talking about that for weeks and months to come afterwards.
Yeah.
And them talking about that without me in the room, that's what's starting to create my reputation.
Yes.
And that is sort of out of my control because I painted that picture, I put the picture out there, and it's like an artist, isn't it, putting a picture in an art gallery in a big exhibition. They can only get the picture on the wall ready for the exhibition. The customers coming in or whoever's coming in, it's their view of that picture. It's what they think to the artwork. It's what people thought about me, the afternoon tea, the situation. That's the reputation that's in the hands of your audience, your customers, your clients, whatever you want to call that, some people community network. That's where your reputation starts to build, and you're not directly in control of that.
No, I don't.
That's the point.
I don't think you are in control of that, but I think what you do is as you say, it's building that brand, and that brand is, I suppose, it's the second stage is when people walk away from you that they say, okay, Trevor is. That was a great afternoon. It's the same when we talk about the Digital Alchemist, and everyone knows Trevor as you create incredible graphics, you can create websites and stuff like that, and you have a very creative mind. And that's the first thing when I talk to people, and when I say, I might talk to a good friend of mine, Trevor in the UK, blah blah blah, they always say, oh, he's so creative. That's the reputation because they automatically, as you say, it's painting a picture, and they automatically go in. And as we've talked about, we talk about NLP and stuff like that, but we also go into our mind's eye and we also see Trevor. We see the picture of you. We see the graphics that you do, and it's like people have said, I would love to get into Trevor's brain someday because it's just incredible. And like that, and that's not me, bigging you up in the sense but it's what you've done with the brand that has made them people say these things. It's the same as you say about Compass Media, or they say about me that Alan's very personal. He's always very personal person. That was the brand that I had chose to build because I seen that's where I am good. That's what I'm good at. That's where I get on with people. That's the way I get the best out of people, situations, whatever it is, training, whatever I may do. And I know it works. So that's why I use that. And that's where my reputation, likewise with yours, is that people say, oh, Alan's a very personal guy. Trevor's a very creative guy. Yeah. And that's the reputation, I think, that brings that to the front. And, I think reputation it's a very fickle line because I think it can change instantly if something happens that that goes on. And I think I always say that to people: be very careful with your reputation because it's the one thing that you cannot control, but it is the one thing that's the most important part of your business, whether that be online, offline.
Definitely.
So important.
I think the control is interesting. I think it's probably like rowing a boat across an ocean. While you can row your boat, you're in control of your boat, but you're not in control of the ocean. And a storm could come up and tip your boat upside down, no matter how good you are at rowing a boat. And I think one of the funny, curious kind of, I shouldn't use the word curious on your social media talks podcast because we'll get confused. But
no, people, no.
One of the ones I always use to demonstrate the difference between brand and reputation, because people kind of go, well, yeah, but you can control your reputation. No, you can control your brand and you can influence your reputation, but it is in the minds of the other people. So unless you've got some special mind control technique you've learned, then you can't do it. And the classic one is BMW. We've all heard of BMW cars, and I'm sure BMW will probably translate to our American listeners.
Now, be very careful because I drive one.
It's not me, it's the brand.
Okay.
So BMW have created a brand of like the ultimate driving machine, the driver's car, power, performance, style. They put a lot of effort into creating that brand, and that's recognizable, isn't it? You see a BMW and you think, yeah, that's a powerful driver's car. However, they have a reputation that their indicators don't work.
Yeah.
Now, BMW didn't create that. I don't know who created it, but it's certainly the UK here. I'm not sure in America it's the same, but certainly the UK, there is a big reputation that BMW's indicators don't work. And BMW haven't done anything about that as far as I can see. It's just drifted into the marketplace, and it's just the running joke of BMWs, and probably other cars all have their own running jokes of their reputations, haven't they?
Yeah.
But that's the key. No matter how much effort a big brand like that tries to control its brand, it can control its brand because it chooses that, but it can't directly control its reputation.
And it's similar like that. It's similar to the Elon Musk, the Tesla, the new Tesla that came out, and when they pulled the sheets back off it, this fantastic new machine, and they went to start it, and the thing wouldn't start. And Elon Musk is standing on stage, and he's going, okay, and they eventually got it started, but for weeks after, people were talking, oh, don't buy the new Tesla car because it doesn't start. Right. And that's something that followed that car. Now, since then, they've done a relaunch, and it's top of state of the art.
Well, I think this is the feedback loop stage. And there's a great quote here by a guy called Bernard Kelvin Clive. And it says, a referred brand is a preferred brand, and a preferred brand is a referred brand. And the point is, the brand leads on to reputation, assuming you've actually got some customers. If you then review and monitor and keep an eye on your reputation, you can reflect on that, review that, and kind of think, okay, my perception in the marketplace, my reputation probably isn't 100% what I thought I wanted it to be. People have interpreted things differently, whatever, however it looks. You can then take that on board and think, okay, I need to tweak the message a bit, and perhaps change my brand message to try and nudge that reputation back into line where you wanted it to be. So there is this feedback loop that goes round from your brand to reputation to review to then readjust your brand message you're going to put out, however it's going to be put out, to try and then nudge the reputation back onto where you think you want your reputation to be. But it reminds me of steering a big ship at the sea. One tiny little move takes about 3 miles to change direction, doesn't it? It's just, but there is that feedback loop that comes around.
Just you're saying that they're giving a quote. Normally on another podcast, and just to let you know, guys, we have another podcast where myself and Trevor do our own another podcast called the Curious Fire Podcast, and you can listen to that. You can find it on all podcast providers. Anyway, enough of that. And this is what we're talking about: is social media. We're talking about digital marketing. We're talking about brands. We're talking about reputations here, and Trevor is a great one for the quotes. So I said, I better find one. I literally said, I better find one before the night is out or before the day is out. And so the one that I actually found, and I think it sort of ties into what we're talking about here, is this: people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that is so true when it comes to your reputation, because you'll always be remembered for it. You may not... they mightn't remember the exact words that you say, or they mightn't, the exact thing that you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I think that's so important.
Well, I think that's where the brand building comes in, that if the feeling is there, if your brand can create feeling, rather than just going, well, I've done my logo, I've got a website, that's it, right, where's my customers? You need to create a holistic overall view of where your brand's going and tap in to those feelings, and it has to be relevant to your business. All businesses are different. We're all doing different things. But if that feeling connection is key to what you're doing, and certainly, in our world, certainly, creativity is this kind of a soft, fuzzy skill, isn't it? And training is a very empathetic kind of skill. So they're very feeling related skills, if that's such a skill.
Well, I think it is. I think that's all to do with customer experience and stuff.
Precisely. So it's even down to our discussion the other day about typography with somebody. And somebody was sort of saying, oh, I don't know what font to use. I said, well, all fonts have a personality.
Yeah.
Fonts add personality to words. Really? I hadn't thought about that. And just the typeface that you pick to write, I know obviously a lot of social media, you can't, if you're just typing a post on LinkedIn, it is what it is. But where you have control of your typography, choosing that typography can be a very subtle message to putting out. Is it a soft, fine lined, heavyweight, italic? Has it got 30 twiddly bits on the edge? It's just one little example of painting that picture. And if you've kind of studied some of these grand masters of sort of the old watercolor paintings or oil paintings, and you watch how they do that. We obviously wouldn't watch what they did now, but if you watch some people doing it nowadays, just the choice of the brush, how they pick the right shade, how they put it is, excuse me, a fine art. It really is. And it's sometimes we kind of don't get down to that detail of our own brand and picking those fine details out to realize that it all starts to build that picture.
And I think it's very important because, you see so many, you see it every day on social media that there's new accounts popping up and there's new people that are popping up and you see them and they're doing one thing and then they're doing another thing and there's no consistency. And I think consistency is key to what you should be doing, especially when it comes to obviously social, because and anything I suppose that you're putting out there, whether that be online or offline. But I think it's consistency that you remember. Like we spoke on one of the last podcasts about digital imagery, and the way we spoke about it was that at the end of the day your images alone can define that brand because it tells a story. Like we know that the particular font that Trevor uses for the Digital Alchemist, we know the one that Alan uses for Compass Media. If we never put the logos near it, people would recognize it because we've built that, and that's the brand building exercise that we've done, and we've done it over many years. It hasn't been just sort of like, okay, well, I like this style. It has been actually thought about and said, okay, this is the way I see it and the way I envisage. And I think that has to come, as you said earlier on, a picture can paint 1,000 words. And it's very, very true, because if we look at branding, you have to have a vision. There has to be a vision in his head. I was talking to Declan Gray here on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he used a very good analogy of how people communicate back and forth. And he says, we tell 4 movies every time we speak. Yeah. And that 4 movies is the first one is in the brain, the second one is out of our mouths, the third one is going into the other person's mouth, and then the fourth one is when it hits their brain as well. And like that, it's a movie that flows across 2 people or a number of people, whoever it is that you're talking about. But the point being that I'm trying to make here is that your brand is very important. It's probably one of the most important things. Apart from whatever you do, it's your branding that makes you who you are and distinguishes you and gives you that edge and gives you that sense of your being in this world or in this business world or whatever as you want to, whatever way you want to look at it that way.
Yeah. But even what you said there, what you do creates your image. I mean, I see some people sort of saying, "Oh, when you go to meetings, do you wear a shirt and a tie, or do you just wear jeans and a t-shirt?" Now, there's no right answer other than what's right for the image you're trying to portray.
Yeah.
That's the point.
I've often done that. Like I've often gone to do a training session, and you know the way you have days where you just don't want to wear a suit, or you just don't want to wear. You'd rather be in a polo shirt and a pair of jeans, pair of decent boots or whatever it may be, or shoes or whatever it is. And I have to stop myself and say, no, you wear the suit because that's your brand. That's what you're known for. We have a good friend in Trevor, or in what's called Howard Hughes, who always wears a suit, and he's always dressed to the nines, and he looks fantastic. It's the same. There's Paul Dunphy, Paul Dunphy Esquire, and we have to give him a shout out. He was another guest on the podcast, and he had his trademark as his Dickie Bow. It's the same. Joanne Sweeney used to have her red shoes is her trademark. Yeah, everyone has a brand in some shape or form that they're using, and I'm sure if you look, let's look here at the types of, say, Steve Jobs. He always wore a pair of jeans and a black polo shirt, black polo neck. Yeah, that's his brand. Mark Zuckerberg, they say he's over 1,000 grey t-shirts and 1,000 pairs of jeans because that's his brand. So that piece is so important of how you dress and how you wear I suppose it's how you portray yourself in every shape and form. And I think brand is a lot bigger than just a logo and a website, or a letterhead or whatever it may be. I think it encompasses a lot more. And then, as you say, the reputation part, that's a big part. And I'm seeing your point here now, because I would have always put brand and reputation are in the same boat, but they're actually two separate things, because as you say, your reputation, you cannot, you can't control that.
No. Well, it's a bit like when you say put it in the same boat. It is like a boat. I always say, your brand is a vessel. You could say like a boat. Your logo is your nameplate on the boat, and your reputation is kind of like the ocean, really. You set sail out into the ocean, and it's how you affect that ocean and how that ocean responds to you. If it's kind to you, you'll have a good journey, won't you? Yeah. How's that for an analogy off the top of my head?
Very good, yeah.
That's the creativity coming out.
I was just about to say, that's your creative mind. Yes, indeed. And I know there'll be certain people out there who will say, oh my gosh, how does he come out? But, and I think it's so true. And I think we should really look at our brand. And what would be your advice for people who are thinking about, I suppose, branding themselves? And what have you learned over the years that has sort of helped you to develop your brand so much?
I think it's certainly in our sort of sphere of the people we deal with, probably more personal brands, because they're small business, solopreneurs. We're not talking sort of like BMW, big kind of product brands. So I think if we reference it to our kind of world, and I guess a lot of our listeners are in a similar kind of situation, it is a lot about the personal brand. And I think in business, when you start off, it's kind of like, oh, I've got a business now. It's not me, it's my business. And, you call yourself the CEO of your business, and it's the business you're trying to brand, and you kind of detach yourself from it because you're just kind of working for it, really. And I think for smaller businesses like that, it's a big mistake that actually you are your business. Yeah. People are dealing with you, and, it's kind of stopping back and thinking, hang on a sec, what am I bringing to this business? And the business is just that vehicle to send invoices out and, do quotes and the admin of it, but you're the person doing it all. And I would say the biggest mistake for the small businesses is thinking too much about the business brand and not about you as the brand. And that's something, I made the same mistake when I started. I thought, I've got my brand, it's the business, it was all about the business and everything. And I kind of took a bit of a back seat. And it did dawn on me many years ago, that's not working. People want to deal with me. They want me as the creative. It's the same as my wife, Rosie. Rosie makes jam, says what she does. She makes jam. Just more than jam, but it's the kind of common term. And we go places, do talks and presentations of various things, and people come up to us and say, are you Rosie? Because Rosie has this brand, and the brand is her. Yes. That's been created, And I think that is the key thing. And it's being also aware to, everything you do can be part of your brand. You send an email. How do you write? What tone of writing? Do you have a nice signature at the bottom? When you send an invoice out, does it have your logo on it? Does it look presentable as with all the rest of your brand? So everything you put as a touch point out there, that a customer, a consumer, anything you interact with, is it all conducive and consistent with the picture you're trying to paint?
And I agree totally with that. it's only it's just as you're talking there, I'm listening, I'm sort of saying, yeah, I agree with him on this, because I've noticed, like, as I said, like myself, I started off and I had Compass Media, and Compass Media was the business, and yes, indeed, and we're going to be, millionaires this time next year. We're going to be millionaires, Rodney, and all that stuff. And it was all there, and I was saying, yeah, I have all this. I have the logos, I have the website, I have the social media, I have this, and then it was like, okay, but that's just the company.
That's just a show. Yeah.
That's just the company. But now when people talk, when someone says, oh, do you know Compass Media? The next line, it was always, oh, Alan Hennessy. Because I am the brand. And it's only in the last, like, currently at the moment, I am developing a personal website. So it's a personal brand. So it's actually going to be me that's going to be in the website, and it's going to be everything. Because like that, everyone sees Compass Media and they say, oh yeah, well, he just does social media, when in actual fact I do quite a lot more than that. And it's only when people get to see me and people talk to me that they go, I didn't realise you did that. I was only out on Saturday night and we were talking with friends, and one of the friends, we ended up having a conversation about something, and they says, I never knew you had such an in-depth knowledge of this. Because they didn't know, because I wouldn't have spoken to them about it before. So it sort of it set alarm bells off for me as well, and saying that, okay, yeah, you need to have a personal brand, and I think that's very important as well. Now, I'm not saying to everyone that if you have a business, I'll drop it and just go and have your personal brand, but I think if you're the front face of this business, people need to see you, whether it be on the company website that you're on the front page, or whether it be, on social media with your live videos. It needs to be you. It doesn't just need to be I suppose, even a video that's happening, and it's all the time images. It needs to be you front facing it, because that's who people are going to, we use that terminology now, and I think it's become very, very prevalent, is that we know, like, and trust, because we do business with people. We don't do business with, we don't buy from machines, we buy from people. And the people in front of us are the brand. And the brand is the most important part, because the reputation will follow. If you look after the brand, I think the reputation will happen. Sorry, I went off on a little one there, didn't I? Yeah, sort of like that.
It all makes sense, doesn't it? It all makes sense. And I think it has been, for a lot of people, they kind of think brand is related to their product or their service or their business, and not them. But it's all integral, and I think it probably has changed over the years. And certainly now, you see, I think it's changed dramatically. Over the last year or two, anyway. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we don't have this proper 9-to-5 job anymore.
No,
we are on kind of 24/7 virtually, aren't we? I mean, I think we do sleep a little bit now and again in between tweets, but
just a bit.
And I think the social media has brought the ability to be more personal online, rather than hide behind your company name, and connect with people. And that's a lot of what is actually happening on social media. People are connecting with people on a personal level. And then they really, I didn't know you do so-and-so, or you do so. Oh, do you know someone that does so-and-so? Oh, I know, Alan does that. And it's like, no, it's not Compass Media does that. It's like, oh, I'll put you in touch with Alan. He can help you out with podcast recordings or whatever the subjects are. And I think that's where the message needs to be, you are your brand, and your brand is you, and it's all part and parcel of one of the same thing. So just, get out there and start painting your pictures, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, like, I'm just here listening to you, and I'm just thinking back to, like, we've over whatever it is, 86 episodes released, or 87 or whatever it may be, in and around that anyway. But I think over the last, and I noticed it over the last, I suppose, year to a year and a half, is that when I talk to all of these social media experts and these digital experts and stuff like that, and, the same message keeps coming across. It's being human, it's being you, and we need to lose this, us and them type of scenario, where it's now we need to be a lot more, I suppose, friendly, and we need to talk to people as people, because that's what's happening now. And I think in this, especially in this time, I think it's so important, because we're starting to lose that connection of face to face, where we're now sort of doing everything online. So I think it needs to get back to that. And I think the more, like, we interviewed Mark Schaefer, and he said, you know, and as he says in his book, the most human company wins. And that's, you know, the truth. Jay Baer reiterates it in Talk Triggers. This, you know, you even seen, like, I remember we interviewed Coach Bill Hart, and he was talking about white collar warriors, but he was talking about discipline, but he was also talking about knowing the person and the person knowing you, because that's what's going to work. And you can see that. And I think people are starting to wake up to that now, and they're starting to understand that this is a vital, important part.
Well, it is. I mean, I got a great example for the human connection thing. Somebody told me a book I need to read, and they said, "Oh, it might be out of print. I don't know." They've had this book since like the 80s. They said, "But it's a brilliant book. It will change your life. You have to read this book." So, fair enough, whatever. And so I don't order. I haven't got an Amazon account. I've never ordered from Amazon, because people buy from people, not anonymous entities called Amazon. And I thought, oh, where can I buy this book from? Anyway, on Twitter, there's a great Twitter account for Bookshop in London. And they're always tweeting. I don't think they do any work. I think they're literally on Twitter all day. They don't sell books. But they've got a fabulous sense of humour. And they're always on Twitter. I mean, I see them in the morning, check my phone in the morning. There's always some, if you're looking for some good, entertaining books to read, pop in our bookshop. I'll be open in 5 minutes after I put the kettle on, kind of stuff. And they're just real life tweets. They're not trying to be funny. They're just the life of a bookshop owner, And I thought, And then one day they said, we're opening in 10 minutes. Just got to, take my boots off. It's been snowing today, or something just random like that. And I tweeted back. I said, "Oh, great! I need to order a book on Twitter." They said, "Oh, brilliant! We love customers like you." And I said, "Oh, can you get me ISBN number, book title, whatever, blah blah blah." And they said, "Yeah, certainly. I've got to have my cup of tea first. I'll get back to you in 10 minutes." And we just had a very personal conversation on Twitter. Obviously went direct message to do the actual transaction and payment and all the rest of it. But it's just all done on Twitter. Yeah. And 4 or 5 days later, this book turns up in the post, and I've got my book. Brilliant. That, to me, enriched my life and their life far more than me going tap, tap, tap on some computer screen to some anonymous thing called somebookcompany.com. It's just empty. And there's no connection to life there, Yeah. And their tweets make me smile in the morning. If you wake up and you feel, having a crap day or whatever, you just read their tweets and you're thinking, it's just joyful to read. Yeah. And it's those human connections which make that difference. Yeah,
I'm forever saying that. I'm forever saying that when I'm training as well. Like if someone posts a comment on, or someone leaves a comment on your post, have the decency to answer them. And it works. Like I was talking to a friend of mine in the States. Well, I'll tell a lie. They put up a thing about Hashtagify. The company Hashtagify, and they said, it's a great place to get hashtags and stuff like that. And I said, that's great. And I came back and said, yeah, they're very good. Always find good hashtags there, and blah blah blah. And I tagged them. I actually tagged Hashtagify in the tweet, and said, yeah, great. 2 seconds later, they came back and they says, "Oh, thanks. We love when people talk about us, and we love when we're helping other people." So I went back and I says, "It's a joy to actually see a company like yourselves engaging on social media when that's what you do." And they came back directly and says, "Yeah, why wouldn't we? Because at the end of the day, you're very important to us." And I just went, the fact that you came back and you answered the first time, but the fact that you came back again and answered the second time made me, and I will now champion them. I would now, because simply for that, and that is the reputation part of what we're talking about here.
Precisely. Precisely. It is, and it's one of those challenges, big brands on things like Twitter, which is very direct, immediate, and quick, and it can be personal if they get it right, and some do. Some miss it completely and don't reply to anybody, but the ones that do get it right do have that personal connection. And you feel, and even though there may be some big corporate entity with thousands of employees, you feel as though you've connected with somebody there, and you've had a communication with them, you've made their day, or they've made your day, or whatever.
It's it's very true. And it's even the same with video. Like I watch on a Friday night, I watch the Agora Pulse, the social, it's social program. and it's presented by Jennifer Watson. When they're on, they have a guest on, and it's usually someone really interesting, but there's a great conversation going on in the chat beside it.
Yeah.
And like that, when you put in a comment, they have a great team. Mike Alton, who has been on this podcast as well, is in the background, and he's watching all the posts, and he puts them up on the actual, the live feed and stuff like that. But Jennifer will always mention the people, or say, I see such and such is on tonight, and they actually make that connection with the person. So when you do post a comment, it's going to be recognized, and it's going to be seen, and that's what brings you back every week because of that. So it's like that if you are doing live videos and stuff like that, that it's, make sure you do, recognize the people that are on it. Now, I'm not saying to overly, just like I've seen videos where you just say, oh, and thanks for dropping in, say hello to blah blah blah, say hello to blah, and it ends up it's a 10 minute set of where they're talking. They interject in the middle of it, and they might say, that's a great post from Alan, or that's a great question from Trevor. Bang, and it's great because you feel that you're involved in that conversation. You're not an outsider. And that's what brands should be doing now.
And I think that's probably getting very close to reputation management as well, because they can monitor that conversation in real live time.
Really,
So totally. Going back to Jeff's quote, it's what people talk about when you're not in the room. This is what people are talking about when you are in the room. So it's kind of really on that cusp of the brand reputation thing all together wrapped up in a live video stream at the same time. So, they can keep a very close eye on what's happening in the conversation, and they can keep the conversation going, so the conversation doesn't go off track with people saying weird things and strange things, and it keeps that reputation management happening immediately as the brand is being built. It's kind of the reputation brand real time happening, isn't it, all together, which is what you probably don't get in your normal life. You create your brand, you put it all out there, and it could be months and months and years later before you get some feedback from your reputation. But that's a real great example in the sort of using the modern age of all the technology and the video and everything, which we kind of take for granted is quite cutting edge technology still, isn't it? It hasn't been about long. In the evolution of the planet, it's quite new.
I was only talking to my father the other week, and I was saying to him, I was talking to someone in, I can't remember, I think it was Australia or something. He says, you were talking to someone in Australia? And says, yeah. And regularly I would talk to people around the world. And even tonight I had a conversation with a friend of mine that I haven't spoke to in ages. And he was asking me how we were getting on. And I was saying, look, we're doing the podcast, talking to all these people. He says, it's amazing, isn't it, the way you can talk to people around the world. And, so I think we're starting to it's become the norm where we say, oh, this is just, what we do. But it is, as you say, it's cutting edge that we're on. And we're very, 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 very lucky to have what we have today. So I think we should also take that into consideration as well. I think the key takeaways here, though, from today's podcast is definitely that brand is more than just a logo. It's definitely, it's about everything you do, say, and how you act and stuff like that. And I suppose the reputation is how people will perceive you, but also how people will remember you. And I think it's also important that you are putting your best foot forward, I suppose, as well, because that's what's going to eventually keep.
I think the reputation comes from the collective perception. That builds, and depends how big that builds. But that's the key difference to it. It's appreciating there is a difference between brand and reputation. They're two different things. But I say it's not to say you can't feed back on that reputation and plumb it back in your brand and try and improve it all the way. Keep that loop going on. It's not a dead end. But it's being aware of the differences. But that's about it.
It's constant. Trevor, as always, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I always ask my guests, and when the last time you were on this podcast, I don't think we asked you this question.
Oh, right.
But today we're going to ask you this question. It's one question that I've asked every guest who comes on the podcast. At the end of the show, I always ask them the same question, and that is, if you had the chance to invite someone to dinner, whether it be past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh, is this where you put it on pause and leave me to think about it for 10 minutes?
No, this is where I leave it off pause and see how quickly your brain is actually working today.
I would say, for the creativity side of things, it has to be a guy called Paolo Vinici, who was an Italian artist.
Right.
Who painted wonderful pictures in Italy, funny enough. And incredibly long story, but the creativity that I get comes from Paolo.
Wow. Okay, so we now know where the inspiration is coming from. So that's the person that you. Oh, right. Well, okay. Well, that's a first. We haven't had Paolo. What's his name again?
Paolo Venici.
Paolo Venici. Yes, indeed. So brilliant stuff, Trevor. How can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out and chat with you some more?
You mean my reputation hasn't spread that far that everybody knows exactly where I am? It's terrible, isn't it? I need to do more work on that.
Most people just come back and say, you can get me up, but no.
Well, for those of you who don't know what my website is, where have you been? Best place is, the old internet, digitalalchemist.live. That's my website. And on my contact page is all the social media places you can find me hiding. So happy to talk to anybody in a DM on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or that kind of thing. So digitalalchemist.live.
Brilliant stuff. And of course, we will put all your links in the show notes as well for this episode. So if you have been trying to scribble down stuff and you've missed stuff, don't worry, you can check it out. They'll all be in the show notes, any links, and also the topics that we covered as well today in the podcast. Trevor, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you continued success. And I'm not going to say we'll talk to you again soon, because we will. You know you will. We'll be back on it. I think I'll have to start making you co-host at this stage.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for having me for a third time. I wonder when it will be. Another 2 years before we're number 4, is it?
Yeah. We'll go for another 2 years.
Another 2 years.
Yeah. So we should be up to, I suppose, about 180 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
no, it's been good to join in on a third occasion. So thanks for having me.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, Trevor, have a great day, and we shall talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining us today on the Social Media Talks podcast, and hopefully you learned some great information and also insights from our guests today. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. And all of our podcasts are available on all the usual podcast providers, including Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Mixcloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And we would be delighted if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, as we are always thrilled to receive your feedback on any of the programs. You can also subscribe to the podcast there so you never miss an episode as well. And if you'd like the show notes for this episode or for any of the previous episodes, please log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/show notes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, please do get in contact with us. All you have to do is email us at smtalks@compassmedia.ie. And if you'd like to find out more about the services that Compass Media provide, from social media marketing and training to podcast services, please visit our website for more details. You can also reach out and connect with me across all of the social networks, including Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and I will personally answer every one of your requests. That's about all for today. I've been Alan Hennessy from Compass Media for the Social Media Talks podcast, and we look forward to talking to you next week. And as I always say, be social. So until next week at the same time, bye-bye.
Social Media Talks podcast is a production from compassmedia.ie.
The Social Media Talks podcast is sponsored by ContentCal. For more information, visit their website at contentcal.io. We would also like to remind you the Social Media Talks podcast is proudly supported by charityradio.ie.